Chapter 12, Management Systems and Crisis Planning. Our learning objectives in this chapter are going to define active managerial control, identify the 7 principles of HACCP, and what on earth HACCP is, explain crisis management procedures, and recognize managers' responsibilities in the prevention and then recovery as well. Active managerial control. It's a proactive approach to the control of risk factors for foodborne illness. We're looking forward instead of reacting to things. We're looking forward at what kinds of things could happen that I need to prepare for so I can mitigate it or just stop it happening entirely. We're going to focus on prevention rather than reaction. Requires policies, training, monitoring, and corrective actions. And then it's mandated under the FDA Food Code of 2022. We need to be prepared for as many eventualities as we can possibly be. So some elements in our food safety management system. We have SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures. So what's an SOP? Can someone name an SOP we have in our classroom? Something we do every single day. Wash our hands, right? Exactly. Do you just sprinkle some water on your hands?
No.
Hopefully it's not a yes, right? So no, right? So we turn on the tap, we get a little bit of soap, we're lathering up for 10 to 15 seconds minimum, then we're rinsing off, paper towel, drying off really well, turning the tap off with our paper towel, right? That's an SOP. Washing, rinsing, sanitizing, and then allowing to air dry our equipment, our tables, all of those things. That's a standard operating procedure. A recipe is a standard operating procedure, right? So things that we're repetitively doing, these are all standard operating procedures. They don't just happen and hopefully happen, right? You guys are all trained to understand all of these basic SOPs that we do because we do it all the time, right? That's how a restaurant should operate. So we should have training programs to ensure compliance with these standard operating procedures. I can't just expect someone to come in who's never worked in a kitchen before to know how to wash dishes, how to even turn on a dishwasher and set it up properly so that it operates at the correct temperatures, correct pressures, and everything else like that with the correct liquids in there to go and do the correct job. So we also should be doing monitoring. So we should have monitoring systems to verify ongoing safety. And then corrective actions when deviations occur, when something goes wrong. When something was missing, something was broken, something occurred that was outside of the realm of safety, then we should have corrective actions that we can take immediately. Verification and record keeping to ensure accountability. Because when we take times and temperatures on things as we're cooling them, or if we're monitoring to make sure that those chicken wings hit 165, right? We are making sure we're verifying, but we should be keeping records on these things as well. Then the documentation protects the business during inspections as well, because when the health inspector walks in and says, "Hey, so what temperature your refrigerator's running?" and you're like, "Oh," they're not going to be very impressed. They want to see you are actively managing things, you're actively controlling. So the benefits of a food safety management system: keeps consistent food safety performances constantly. It gives faster corrective actions when problems occur. It gives improved regulatory compliance, meaning when the health inspector comes in, they know that if something were to deviate, you have a plan. You have the ability to make it right. And then increased customer confidence and reduced liability. I'm going to have increased customer confidence if my restaurant, and this is kind of the horrible thing about it, if my restaurant is known for making people sick, then I'm going to have less and less business, because people don't go to restaurants to get poisoned. They go because they don't want to cook tonight, right? They want to go for a special occasion, whatever it might be, but they don't want to have it where they're not confident in them being well when they get back out. So it's going to help with that. And liability. Every time you make someone sick, if it's proven that you made them sick, they could sue you, right? And then your insurance policy is going to get more and more expensive. And eventually an insurance company may say, "You are too much of a liability. We're not going to even insure you," which means you either have to find another insurance company or you're out of business because you can't operate without insurance. HACCP. What is HACCP? Hazard analysis and critical control points. So this is the preventative system to identify and control hazards before they occur. It's required for high-risk operations, things like juicing, seafood items that we're putting in sous vide systems as well, any kind of reduced oxygen packaging. If we are brining things and we're looking to cure meats, all for the purpose of preserving them, or we're smoking fish, then if we're smoking it for the purpose of preserving it, then we need to have a HACCP plan. It's used to justify a variance. What is a variance? You'll probably hear the word variance come up in your exam. A variance is a permission slip from the local health department that says, yes, you can deviate from the normal SOPs, from the normal things that we do with foods. You can deviate, but only if you follow exactly what you promised to do on your HACCP plan. Okay? So the 7 HACCP principles. We conduct a hazard analysis. So we're going to look and see what is the possible hazard that can come up. We're going to identify the critical control points. That might be that my chicken needs to be refrigerated till I'm ready to go and prepare it. Then I'm going to prepare it and I'm going to cook it to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. If I'm not serving it immediately, then I'm cooling it down from 135 down to 70 degrees within 2 hours, and then I'm cooling it down from 70 degrees down to 41 or below in 4 more hours, right? Those are where I'm looking at the critical control points where I make a decision to either make it safe or I fail at making it safe. To establish the critical limits, what's that limit as I'm cooking must hit 165. If I do not, then I've got a problem, right? I'm not hitting my critical limit. We're going to monitor our critical control points. And so as we're monitoring, if something goes wrong, then I'm going to take corrective action. My chicken wings, I pull them out of the fryer. My chicken wings are at 155 degrees. What could my corrective action be?
Throw them away or eat them.
I could throw them away, but I mean that could be on the wasteful side. Well, one thing I could do, if I'm literally testing it and it's at 155, put them back in the fryer. Right? Put them back in the fryer and get them to 165 where they need to be. That's my corrective action. Say if I had them on under a heat lamp on a buffet, all you can eat wings, and I check them, and in the last 15 minutes it's just gone down to 133. Is that a problem? What is my critical limit on keeping food hot in my on my buffet? 135, right? So I've fallen to 133. I only took the temperature about 15 minutes ago, so it's just dropped down into there. What's my corrective action? Reheat it. To what temperature? 165, right? I can take, so corrective action. If on the exam it says, what corrective action should I take for this, this, and this? It is asking you an immediate thing. A corrective action is something you don't hang around like, well, we'll see how it goes in the next half an hour. It's something you immediately do. And then we're going to verify the system's effectiveness, because if it didn't work, whatever it was that we needed to do, if it didn't work and people still got sick because of the way we were working it, we need to figure out something different. And then we're going to establish record keeping and documentation. That's critical, because that's the way that we prove that we did everything that was on our HACCP plan. Because if you have a HACCP plan that allows you a variance, what's a variance again? A permission slip from our local health department that says that I can cure a slab of bacon to make, or a slab of pork belly to make it into bacon, right? So it's my permission slip because it's a higher risk thing that I'm doing, a higher risk process that I'm doing, but my variance, my permission slip says I can, as long as I do exactly what it says on my HACCP plan that they've approved. Okay. So if we look at our HACCP flow table, so when we receive foods in, this is just an example of how my critical control points fit into my daily operations in the business. So when I receive foods in, I'm going to look to make sure there's no contamination from unsafe suppliers, right? So I'm only purchasing from approved, reputable suppliers. I'm having those approved suppliers checked. I'm making sure that they've got certifications so that way they're keeping my food safe from where they purchase it from all the way through till when I get it. Then we are cooking. We're going to make sure that we don't have any pathogens. Survival. What are pathogens? Bacteria, yeah. What?
Fungi,
Fungi, viruses, right? All of the things that want to make me sick, the bad bugs that want to make me sick. So we're going to make sure we hit the correct internal temperature, maybe 165 if it's for my chicken. Then cooling, right? I'm going to make sure that I stop pathogen growth, any bacterial growth during that time. So we've got time and temperature control from 135 to 72 hours, 70 to 41, 4 hours, our regular cooling, and then holding. What's holding? What's hot holding or cold holding?
That's what you don't have to serve it immediately, but you're going to serve it over time.
Right, it's going to be served over time because it's probably going to be on a buffet or something like that, right? Or on a steam table, some kind of a setup like that. So then, if I'm holding it, it must be either above 135 or below 41 Fahrenheit. Then if I'm reheating, I'm going to make sure that I don't have any pathogen survival. None of the bad bugs are going to survive. I'm going to reheat on that final kill step, and I'm going to make sure I hit 165 Fahrenheit. Okay. So with our HACCP flow, we start off with our hazard analysis. We identify the critical control points. We look at our established limits. We're going to make sure that we don't allow it to exceed any of those limits. We're going to monitor the food. We're going to correct it if it needs it. We're going to verify that all of these things were correctly done according to our HACCP plan. And then we're going to make sure we record all of this information.
So a HACCP flow is just making sure you do all the steps accordingly.
Correct. The HACCP plan should identify the biological, physical, and chemical hazards that the food items can be exposed to. Crisis management. So, a plan for responding to emergencies that threaten the food safety or the operation. So, we have to focus on being prepared, responding, and recovering. We must cover foodborne illnesses, equipment failure, natural disasters, and possible deliberate contamination as well. We're going to designate a crisis response team and have the roles that crisis response team will have too. So when we have a crisis, so we're talking about here maybe power loss, like total power loss, refrigeration loss. We're talking about raw sewage, poop floating around on the floor in the kitchen. These are catastrophic things which are causing an imminent health hazard. Okay, when you see the words imminent health hazard come up on the exam, it probably will at least one time, then it's going to ask you what kinds of things can you do. In general, when it says an imminent health hazard, you're closing down, okay? Unless if you have some very specific capabilities in your business to do otherwise, you're probably closing down. So, when we're looking at the 3 phases of crisis management, so preparation, we're going to try and prevent or plan for these various different crises. We're going to develop contact lists, we're going to have backup suppliers, and standard operating procedures for what we do when the poop is rolling around on our kitchen floor. When we have a response, it should be to control the immediate threat, stop operations, isolate the affected product, notify the authorities. Yes, we cannot let raw sewage be floating around in our kitchen and we just sweep it under the rug and hope it'll be okay. We must let the authorities know that something catastrophic has happened. And they're going to assist us in getting everything back up and running again safely. Then we go into recovery mode. We're going to be returning to safe operations. We have to discard any contaminated food or any food that was suspected of becoming contaminated. We've got to retrain staff so that they know what we now need to do to get back up and running again, and then document all of the actions that we're going through. So this is our general communication flow when we have a crisis. The employees report the incident to the local health department. Manager investigates and confirms that this is happening. The employee reports it to the manager. The manager then confirms and reports it to the regulatory authorities and the health department to make sure that they're aware we're going to be closing down because all of our refrigeration has gone offline and it's not coming back up. Everything's broken. We're going to make sure that we notify any corporate management or owners if that's necessary. But notice we do that after we've told the authorities that this is happening. We're going to communicate with the media if that's required as well, depending upon what the crisis might be. And it's not just going to be we're going to get one of the cashiers to go out and talk with the media. you would generally have an owner, or you would have a high-up manager, general manager, or a communication specialist, depending on how big the company is, who would take care of that. We're going to document actions and our recovery as well. So what kinds of food service crises are we looking at? Foodborne illness outbreaks, water supply interruption or contamination, power outage or equipment failure like refrigeration, fire, flood, or natural disaster, or a product recall or intentional contamination that could have happened. Right? If Bob from Bob's Burgers comes over to my restaurant, because I'm Jimmy Pesto, and he decided he wanted to try and ruin my restaurant, and he came in overnight and sprayed everything with bleach. All my food's covered with bleach. I'm shutting down. It's a crisis that we're going through. My recovery actions. I'm going to discard any contaminated food or unsafe food products. Clean and sanitize all equipment. We're going to reopen only with the health department's approval. And we're going to conduct staff retraining and review procedures after to make sure that we handled it properly. If not, we may need to go back and re-review that. Customer sickness. So the FDA food code. So we're talking about with this. We're talking about if a customer is literally sick in your establishment. You may not have made them sick. It doesn't matter. If you have a customer who gets sick in your establishment. So it requires that all food establishments have a written procedure for employees to follow when responding to a vomiting or diarrheal events. Does not provide a single prescriptive cleanup method, because the fact is every restaurant's different, right? If I have hard linoleum flooring, or if I have tiled flooring, or if I have carpeting and someone's throwing up into carpeting, it's going to require very different cleanups between all of these. They mandate that the procedure must address the specific actions to minimize the spread of contamination and exposure to employees, consumers, food, and surfaces. So I can't just scrape up the poop or scrape up the vomit and then mop it over and walk away. I have to make sure it's sanitized properly. We may need to be calling in an outside company who can do this, especially for something like carpets. I can't sanitize a carpet. I'd probably destroy it with all the liquid. You're going to have to get a professional company to come in and take care of these things. The purpose of active managerial control is to react to violations after inspections, prevent food safety problems before they occur, ensure employee comfort, or eliminate paperwork. B. I'm going to be preventing food safety problems before they occur. Which HACCP principle establishes the maximum and minimum limits for safety? Hazard analysis, monitoring, critical limits, or verification?
C.
Which one's going to be my minimum limits? C, right? My critical limits, that's where I'm looking at to actually look specifically to where I'm allowed to let it go, and then after that, I've got problems. Which phase of crisis management includes discarding food and retraining staff? Is it preparation, response, recovery, or prevention? Recovery, right? When a foodborne illness is suspected, the first step a manager should take is close the facility immediately, call the media, notify the regulatory authority, or discard all food. Yeah, we're going to close down so that no one can be served food that could make them sick. So when we look at our manager's responsibilities, we're going to make sure we ensure food safety systems are in place, train and supervise employees on standard operating procedures, verify corrective actions are documented, maintain communication with regulatory agencies, and review and update crisis and HACCP plans annually. So in summary, we looked at management systems preventing problems through active control. The HACCP identifies and manages critical control points. Crisis plans minimize the risk during emergencies, and managers must document, verify, and communicate all of their actions. That is Chapter 12.